Pacer Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to your go-to Pacers podcast. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and joining me to talk about the fourth place Indiana Pacers. Another victory tonight over the Utah Jazz, Michael J. Facci. Facci, how we doing, brother?
Oh, man, on a night like tonight, we are vibing right now. The Pacers are rolling. This is a team that I felt early on they were down 10. I went, oh, my God, we did it. We looked ahead to Milwaukee. The Pacers come crawling back, and they win this one 134-118. It was a game that we saw quite a few players look awesome in, but you defended your home court against a team that you felt you were better than, and that is exactly what you have to do in the NBA.
I just have to say this, Facci, is Benn Mathurin back? Because tonight, season high in minutes, 38 minutes for Benn Mathurin, 9 of 18 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3, dropped 22 points, also had 2 steals and 4 assists, plus 18 for the night. I think that was the best plus minus of anybody on the Pacers roster. So thoughts on Benn Mathurin's performance?
This is the performance that everybody was waiting on. Something like this can just have someone be able to put their head on a pillow tonight and sleep like a baby, because we don't need to shift everything and move Mathurin to the bench. Look, we were looking at it just before we got on here. The 9 rebounds tonight, a career high, but he does it. It ties a career high, but he does it also in a night where he did have 4 assists, the 2 steals, in addition to the 22 points on efficient shooting. He's 9 of 18, but 4 of 7 from 3-point land. At one point, he was 4 of 5 in the game. So it's like, the jumper looked awesome tonight. One thing we have to highlight, 5 offensive rebounds for Bennedict Mathurin. I mean, this man was everywhere tonight. And I feel like Rick gave him those extra minutes to get him that confidence. And look, he's never short of confidence, but a night like tonight is going to have Mathurin feeling real good.
You know, what's really funny is Rick Carlisle puts out a quote yesterday on the radio and basically says, you know, if you're looking at him to score 20 points a game, well, you know, that's not what we're all about, basically. And then all of a sudden, the next game, Benn Mathurin, he drops more than 20 points. So it's just funny to me how everything kind of played out. Now, you would think 22 points from Mathurin, 22 from Turner, those are your 2 leading scorers. But once again, Mr. Consistent himself, Aaron Nesmith, drops 24 points off the bench, 9 of 13 from the field, played 30 minutes tonight, 4-6 from 3. I just can't keep saying enough great things about Aaron Nesmith. I'm to the point right now where I feel like if you're ranking this Pacers roster from start to finish this season so far, through the first 8 games, he has been the second best player on a consistency level in terms of what you're getting every night. I think obviously number 1's Tyrese, but I think we have always gotten what we expect from Aaron Nesmith almost every night.
Yeah, and obviously those expectations range, you know, on based on their roles and everything. But for Aaron Nesmith's role, he has been very consistent, but not just consistent. He's been far above expectations. I mean, coming into this year, you and I, we were crunching out these minutes. It just, no matter how many minutes we had carved out for Nesmith, it didn't feel like enough.
You were giving him like hardly any.
I mean, look, we were both trying to go through this. He whatever you had for him still wasn't enough.
I was higher on him than you. I know that, but you thought there might be a way he gets edge out of the rotation.
I found out some. I mean, you had Buddy at like 15 minutes a game.
Well, I know. I was going with the 10-man. I mean, okay, let's be fair here. We all thought Jarris was going to play.
Yeah,
and Jarris has not played. But I was just kind of I was just baffled whenever you were talking about like Nesmith getting like 6 minutes a game or something like that at one point.
I ended up having him at like up to 12, and I didn't feel great about it. And it was
like he's too pivotal for this team, regardless of who's right or wrong. He's just too pivotal for this team to not play more than 20 minutes a game.
Oh no! And look, when we look at it tonight, I mean, the 24 points. I mean, he was doing it all around. I mean, he ends the game with just a ferocious slam from a Halliburton pass, but he had to go from 3-point land as well. 4 of 6. I mean, you know, he's bringing the defense every single night. I just feel like the bench, I mean, it was already good last year. This is a bench unit that led the NBA in scoring last year. I think they're better this year, and we're going with a shorter rotation. I just feel that the 4 players that you expect to play every single night, Jalen Smith, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, Buddy Hield, those 4 players are bringing production on a very consistent basis for this Pacers team. it's just amazing to see right now. It was 59 points off the bench tonight for those four guys. I mean, you gotta love that.
Our bench has been fantastic this season. It feels like when they play well, we usually win the game. If they don't play well, it feels like we're going to lose the game to a certain degree or be in a much closer contest than you would hope so. But, I mean, look at these numbers from Aaron Nesmith for the season, Facci. I mean, I'm kind of blown away because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this is obviously before tonight's stats, but these stats that he had tonight were just through the charts, off the charts. But 50.9% from the field, 45.2% from three. Free throw percentage has to get better. He's only at 60% this year, but you feel good about the direction he's heading because he's shooting 45% from the three-point line, and I think he's had about 31 three-pointers this season. So that's a good sign, and that's before tonight's game where he went, 4 of 6 from three. So you add those to the total.
50%.
Yeah, that puts him at 18 of 37. 18 of 37 for the season right now from three, which is a very good percentage.
It really is. And I tweeted it out before the game because I was just like, look, I knew the Pacers were shooting the ball well from three-point land. 6 Pacers coming into this game shooting above 40% from three-point land. I mean, for a team that lives and dies by the three, they won a game tonight shooting just 13 of 41. It's good for just under 32%. So it's nice to say that, look, if the three-point ball is not falling, oh, man, the Pacers are done. In reality, Buddy Hield, Tyrese Halliburton, they go it was 3 of 18 from three, but there was plenty of other guys that were able to step up across the board. The Pacers didn't have to just rely on that tonight. But, Alex, this is a team that we knew coming into tonight was leading the NBA in scoring. They drop 134 tonight. I mean, this team, they're scoring 120 plus points in their sleep. I mean, how fun is this to watch where they're not just scoring, they're winning. And I know 118 points, look, it's not something to give up to feel great about, but at the same point, man, I mean, 134 points, 152, 143. What we're seeing through 8 games is unbelievable for a young team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bill Simmons said it best today on his Wednesday morning podcast was this Pacers team, they can beat anybody on any given night because of how dynamic they are offensively. And that is really special to see. At the same time, their defense has been really bad. If you look at the numbers, 25th in defensive rating before this game tonight, but they're second in offensive rating and second in pace. So it's like really great at offense, really bad at defense. And once again, in the third quarter, they allowed 38 points to the Jazz. You just cannot do that. No matter how good you play offensively, you got 34 points, you give up 38. It's like you want to see more of those under 30 points per game, like we talked about that. I know the players talked about that, keeping them under 30, but you held them to 20 in the fourth, and that is like, okay, we found that balance there because that's about an average of 29 points a quarter if you combine the third and the fourth together. So this is where the Pacers have got to continue to develop their defensive scheme, get better at things. We've talked about this ad nauseum, so I don't want to keep going down that path, but we have a special offensive talent. We have a special talented offensive team, and I feel so good about what they're doing. And then when you see Benn Mathurin shooting the ball well, getting to the basket, that opens up a lot more because he has not really had a game like this all season long, and I think that changes things, and it allows for Tyrese to go scoreless in the first half and still be up by 7.
And that was very interesting because Halliburton had been so aggressive, you want to say at least maybe the last few quarters of basketball. I felt like that second half, a few games ago came out really strong. And then last game against San Antonio, he comes out in the first half really strong. Just 2 shot attempts by halftime against the Jazz. I was like, what is going on for Halliburton? He had like 7 assists at the time, so that was great. But comes out, drops, it was either 14 or 16 points in that third quarter. And I felt like he really made it a priority. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to score. And that just shows how talented of a player that he is, that he could just basically tell himself he's going to do it. And he did it. He finished the game with 16 points, 13 assists, 6 rebounds, does it on 6 of 12 shooting. It's just this man right over here is, we are so blessed to be able to watch Tyrese Halliburton on a nightly basis because the 13 assists to just 2 turnovers, like he makes everything go and everybody around him better, that even when he's not scoring the ball, he's still really impacting this game.
Yeah, no. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is a special player. The Pacers have got themselves a franchise guy. And we've talked about like he needs to be assertive and kind of get things going offensively early on. But what do you have? 2 shot attempts before the half tonight? So when you're only shooting 2 times, it's like, okay, I want to say he had 7 assists, if I'm remembering correctly. So 7 assists in the first half, only 2 shot attempts. It's like, okay, he didn't have to take over offensively. Yeah, maybe you would have liked to have seen it here and there, but at the same time, he kind of picks his spots once again, when to take over as a scorer, when to turn on that switch. But just looking at the attempts, Facci, it's great to see the amount of attempts go up for him this year, really separating himself from the pack. Because if you look at field goals attempted before tonight's game, he had 102, which is a lot. Only person on the Pacers in triple digits for field goals attempted this season. And you have to remember, he didn't play one of these games too. So it's like guys that have played in all 7 games still had underneath him. I think the next closest one at that point was Myles Turner with 78. So he is separating the pack, separating himself from the pack, being more assertive as a scorer and looking for a shot more. But in a game like tonight against the Jazz, a very, I would say, talented team, but they're dealing with some injuries and they're still young. And last year was kind of a, put people on notice type thing. They're just 2-7. They're not a good team right now, but they still gave the Pacers a bit of a scare here throughout this game. It felt like the Pacers, once they kind of got the lead, could never get over that 7-point lead until probably the fourth quarter when they had a dominant quarter. So I will say this. Have you noticed a certain position that constantly kills the Pacers defensively?
I mean, there's been let me take a look at tonight. Well, yeah, Jordan Clarkson actually absolutely torched the Pacers tonight. He was really good. He had 15 points in the first half, 33 for the game. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's centers, it feels like. It's centers and really good guards. It's not like fours have been killing us.
Because my first thing was like, man, I mean, Evan Mobley destroyed us in that first game against the Cavs, where he had like 33 and 14 or whatever it might have been. So it's like
Vucevic.
That was my first guess. Exactly. Vuce had
Mark Williams.
Honestly, yeah. Those guys have absolutely destroyed the Pacers. And obviously, Lauri Markkanen, hey, good player. He had a good game tonight, 24-9.
But that didn't feel like, oh man, we got crushed. Like I think Jordan Clarkson getting 33 is like, oh my God. Like, yeah, it was on 26 shot attempts, but I was thinking quick guards, like Terry Rozier had a really good game against us. Donovan Mitchell had a really good game, obviously.
He didn't get hurt.
So, what'd you say?
Terry Rozier even got hurt and didn't finish that game early. He was playing well. So it definitely, the Pacers have their struggles defensively. It's crazy because it's like, if you're going to be a bad defensive team, you better be an elite offensive team. And luckily, as of now, the Pacers are. But can it last all season? I don't know. You and I hope the Pacers could be at least a top 20 defensive unit. And that's looking like a stretch.
All right, let's just take a minute and talk about Kelly Olynyk for the Jazz. I was getting text messages about just how much people hate Kelly Olynyk. Are you still in that same boat?
Yeah, I mean, look, and for the boat, I'm wondering if you're still referring to when I had him as the 10th on a top 10.
Hey, I wasn't going to bring that up. You brought that up. I'm saying on the boat of not liking him.
Okay. No, I think Kelly Olynyk, and I stand by this, is the player you don't want to play against and that player you like having on your team. Yeah. There's plenty of players that fall into that category. Totally different players, but like Lance Stephenson is one of those guys. You love him as a teammate. You don't like playing against him. Kelly Olynyk, I can't remember exactly who it was in this game. He had a dirty play where he grabbed someone's arm and was like kind of like twisting it and got a foul. And I was
That's
like,
every game with him.
I know. It's just like classic Kelly Olynyk. I forgot who it was a couple of years ago. He did this to the Pacers and like almost hurt someone. So it's just who he is. It's like what he does. But at the same point, hey, luckily we only have to play him, once, maybe twice a year. Given he's in the Western Conference, so we can live with that. But one other player I want to give a shout out to, Alex. I didn't get a chance to shoot out my Jalen Smith for 3 tweet tonight.
What was that? Where was that at?
He didn't shoot one, but I was.
But it could have been there.
I know, but edge of my seat material. I was like, come on, just shoot it. But 16 points, 11 boards. He had a block. He sent the ball, into the stands. I mean, he has just been so good for the Pacers. But it's not just like the 11 rebounds. It's like some of them are aggressive rebounds where it's just like he's just coming in there, diving out of nowhere and ripping the ball out. At one point, can't remember who it was on the Jazz, just like bear hugged him, fouled him as if he was Shaq. I was like, where did this come from, Jalen Smith? Night after night, he's been so consistent. He was someone who came into this game shooting like 66% from three and over 70% from the field. So I think right now between, Aaron Nesmith, Jalen Smith, like we mentioned about that bench unit, those two have been so good for the Pacers. And that's that internal growth that we were hoping for. And while I'm at it, and we're just talking about the bench, Andrew Nembhard tonight, 9-7, no turnovers, essentially 2 buzzer beaters. He goes 4-4 from the field. I feel that he has not been like explosive for this Pacers team. He's just been good.
Yeah. No, you can't say enough great things about Jalen Smith. Every time I look at his per 36, I just start laughing because it's just through the roof.
It's just so ridiculous. Yeah.
73.7% field goal wise. This is per 36, 66.7 from 3. Let's see, 76.9 from 2, 60% from the free throw. That's not great, but 13.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists, and he would be second in points, 24.4 in the per 36 minutes. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton number 1, but I do want to talk a little bit, Facci, about the bad shooting from Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton from deep. They were just 3 of 18 tonight, and the Pacers still managed to win this game. Myles Turner, what do you have? 22 points in 23 minutes. I think that is something to look at because he just dominated. Without Walker Kessler out there for the Utah Jazz, they just don't have an answer for Myles, and he really attacked those mismatches. I really enjoyed that. And then I feel like Andrew Nembhard started getting it going there at the end of the third, and that carried over into the fourth quarter. I feel like that was a big momentum swing right there for him and for this Pacers team.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. Speaking on Turner, I mean, the Pacers just hopped on his back in that first half. He had 20 of the 22 points in the first half in 13 minutes. Really didn't need Myles in that second half, but that first half, I mean, he was just a man on a mission out there. Really, just shouldered the load for this Pacers team. And I just think that was a big part of not only being able to, erase that 10-point deficit, but really start to push ahead. So I think that all players kind of had their moments. I mean, Bruce Brown had a dunk that, look, I'm 5'10" on a good day. When I saw Bruce Brown dunk that, I felt like that was what I would look like dunking it, because it just looked like he had to go up so high in the air just to barely dunk it. And I was just like, man, I don't know why I'm laughing at a guy who's easily would be towering over me. But it felt like it was like, the Pacers sideline, they were laughing at him. They knew it's like, this ain't a guy who's dunking it too much.
Are you a country music fan like Bruce Brown?
I like some country music. Yeah.
Okay. Top 3.
Let me see. So I'm trying to think of Zach Brown Band is sentimental to me because that's where Amy and I really connected. We went to a Zach Brown concert. Yeah. Really, really
what's
good
your go-to
concert.
song?
Chicken fried rice or chicken fried. That's what it's called.
Chicken fried rice.
There's no rice at the end of it. It's just chicken fried. Yeah. So
it's the funniest thing I've heard on the podcast.
Just chicken fried. Great song. And we have tickets to a what's his name? Luke Combs concert.
Luke Combs. I was about to ask that. Yeah.
Luke Combs concert. We have the tickets. That's not until next July, but we already bought those.
That is a favorite of Bruce Brown's. They're always bumping some Luke Combs when he's out there shooting.
Oh yeah, no,
Fast
he's
Car.
Yep. So
okay, we got the third artist, Facci. We got 2 in right now.
I don't know if I really got a third.
Morgan
Wallen.
Chris Stapleton.
So I've been to a Chris Stapleton concert before. Yep. So he was good. Back in the day, used to bump some Kenny Chesney. Yep. So. She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy used to be a jam back in the day. That song probably came out about 20 years ago, but I still remember, that song.
I remember it too. That's what's so funny. really turns her on.
Exactly. Actually, funny story. I actually had to
Oh
perform
no,
that song back in the day.
you performed it?
Yeah, I had to perform it with like a group of people. So that's why I very much remember that song. So long
Wow.
time ago. So
You
yep.
got video footage of that?
I do not. Just got
Dude,
the
that's a
memories.
bummer.
Just got the memories. Yep.
Okay.
But
Well,
hey, enough about country music. Obviously we got a couple country music fans on this team between Myles Turner, Bruce Brown. I like it. You know
are we
what?
sure
I
Miles is a
think
country fan?
Myles Turner. I would
Well,
imagine so. I mean, maybe
why?
just well, I mean
Stereotype?
from Texas.
He's a pretty good classic rock guy, man. He was talking about Freddie Mercury's
Yeah, the other
little,
night. Yeah, he was.
yeah, Queen. I
I'm
think
sure living in the Dallas area, you are exposed to more country music.
we'll have
Like
to ask him next time he's on the
we will
podcast if he's a
absolutely
country
have to
guy.
ask. I'm sure he's got a couple songs he likes. Yeah, he's diverse.
Man, I will tell you what, every time Bruce Brown's warming up and I've been there at the game, they're always playing Country Girl, Shake It For Me Girl. Luke
Yep.
Bryan, dude, that song is stuck in my head every time I go to the game. It's the
It's
most
catchy.
catchy song. And I'm
It
not
is.
even the biggest Luke Bryan fan. He's fine. He's whatever.
Yeah.
I actually like him more as an American Idol judge. But with that being said, it's just funny to me that little things like that get in your head and you're sitting there like at work and you're just going, country girl. It's
Make
like,
it roll me
okay,
now.
Foch, get you some
Yep.
now. All
Oh, yeah.
right. I like it. So yeah, we're not talking about jazz music. We're talking about country music because
No jazz.
in 49 states, it's just basketball, but this is Indiana, right? So back to the Pacers, obviously. This was a good win to get 134, 118. They got the Bucks Thursday night. So you're listening to this probably late Wednesday or early Thursday morning. Tough back-to-back there to play Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's at home playing right now. So they're going to travel, get in for tomorrow's game. Giannis Antetokounmpo got ejected in tonight's game as well. Got a second technical foul, so he will not finish that one out for them. So it's going to be interesting. I think that they've been a team that's been kind of trying to figure out who they are as a team and their identity. Looks like there's some holes in that defense, and I'm hoping that Tyrese Halliburton has much more than 2 field goal attempts in the first half against the Bucks team.
He's going to have to prioritize being a more aggressive scorer early on. And look, there is no Drew Holiday there anymore, to be going up against. I think that the Bucks, defensively, that is really where they're weak this year compared to years past, where they had plenty of guys on, an all defensive ballot. Whether it was Brook Lopez being a defensive player of the year, candidate, or Giannis winning it, or Drew Holiday being, just a really good defender. I think there's an opportunity there, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Look, would I love to beat the Bucks? Of course, but I want to see not that much of a difference between the Pacers and the Bucks if we're not going to win. Because you looked at how we played against Boston. I know there was no Tyrese, no Jalen Smith, but a 51-point beating was just like it felt like we didn't even belong on the same court as them. I want to see a competitive game, and I think we're going to learn a lot in this game because the Pacers have been a different team ever since that loss to Boston. I really feel that woke them up, humbled them, and they really got to work despite, obviously losing to Charlotte in that span and a heartbreaker. I think that this Milwaukee game at home, great test for the Pacers.
No, I think it's a great test. You're right. And this Bucks team does have some holes in it. I don't think they're nearly as diverse as they were when they had Drew. I like Dame Lillard. I think he's a really great player. Offensively, the Pacers defense is going to be in big trouble trying to guard this team. So I'm not sure if anybody will sit out in the second night of a back-to-back. That's one thing to look at too for the Bucks. I would assume they don't because they're still trying to establish some chemistry and stuff like that. But this Pacers team, they lost on the second night of a back-to-back against Charlotte, like you said, by 1 point. And they went to a 10-man rotation at that point, and it did not look good. And that second quarter was just abysmal. So it's a 1-game sample size, not big enough, obviously. But right now the Pacers 0-1 on the second night of a back-to-back. So you hope that is not the case moving forward. And they really need this win because their schedule is going to get a little bit tougher moving forward. They're going to be on the road a little bit more. And when you're at home court, this is when you have to win some of these tough games against some of this better competition because you got to, separate yourself from that. Oh, we're, pretenders, but we're going to make the play-in pack. You want to get into that top 6 level of teams and really solidify yourself early on as like, we're no joke. We're the Pacers. We're deep. We've got a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. And I'm hoping, like you said, that Celtics loss did wake them up. But I think that the Hornets loss, the way that was like, you had a big blowout and a 1-point loss, 2 or 3 games right there in about a 4-day stretch. So I think that also kind of woke them up too. Like, okay, we can't play around with anybody. We got to make sure we take care of business when it's time to take care of business. We got to be professional about things. That's why with Utah, like, yeah, Utah's not a great team, but being able to get over that early deficit, get back on the winning ways and figure things out, that's the way that this team needs to establish themselves moving forward. They cannot allow slip-ups in an 82-game schedule because, yeah, you might say, oh, it's just one loss. Well, those add up. And at the end of the season, when it's 43-39 and you're in the play-in versus the playoffs because you lost a game that you should have won, well, you got to look back at the games that happened in November because they all count towards that record.
They do. I'm just a little bit worried because this is the 3rd game in 4 nights for the Pacers.
They've been at home for all 3 of them, which is very rare.
That absolutely helps. And as you always love to say, they get to sleep in their own bed.
That's true though.
It is. Look, I'm a
very hotel to go sleep in your own bed.
Very particular guy with my pillows. I need a certain amount of pillows. They need to be just stiff enough.
Guy. Wasn't expecting that to be on the bingo card tonight.
Big time. I don't want to get too far into it, but if I don't have enough pillows, we got a problem.
What are we talking about here? How many pillows do you need?
Way more than you think I need. All right.
6?
It used to be 6. Once Amy came into the picture, it really started to lower to 3 to 4 for myself. But
goodness, where do you put these pillows?
I got them all propped up. One's behind the neck, and there's one that leans on there. I got to hold one, and then there might be one if I roll over. But this is where if you're a particular pillow guy, you want to sleep in your own bed, and that's what the Pacers have been able to do lately. It is important. I just worry. 3rd game, 4 nights, Milwaukee Bucks. I just don't want to have us be like, whoa, of course that's one you can chalk up to. It's been tough. It's on a back-to-back. So just want to see how these Pacers respond in this game because it is NBA TV. It is a team that you expect to be competing for an NBA championship. You want to get a good feel of where you're at. You're going to learn it against, a former NBA champion of just a few years ago and one that could very well be, going for it again.
And the Bucks are currently down 111-103 with 5 minutes and 43 seconds left. 111-104 with 5:40 left to the Detroit Pistons at home. So it's a close game. They're going to be playing some heavy minutes besides Giannis, who got ejected. But right now I'm looking at it, and it looks like Dame has played 28. Jay Crowder's played 31. Beauchamp's played 27. So, yeah, this is an interesting team. There are some cracks in that Milwaukee team, I'm telling you.
There is. I hope to be able to expose it, but, man, it's just to make it even worse, if the Bucks lose to the Pistons.
They got to come back and win this for us to have a better chance, I think.
Yeah, exactly. If they lose this game, 1, they're definitely not resting anybody. And 2, they're going to be like, all right, this Indiana game is a get-right game. But I want to just keep running them and just, get some of those older legs in there like Damian Lillard, get them a little bit more tired. So we'll see what we can do. Maybe this was a good plan by the Pacers to be able to say, hey, with Milwaukee tomorrow, maybe that is why you only play a guy like Myles Turner, 10 minutes in the second half. Because if you look at it, guys like Halliburton played 31. Obviously, we talked about Mathurin played 38, but Turner playing just 23. I think that's going to be good to keep him fresh. So hopefully that pays off. And, I don't know. McConnell in the past, if you think about it, McConnell's best game last year was against Milwaukee.
We got him in the back pocket.
We got him if we need him. And that definitely helps. But one thing I want to highlight, Mark Monteith posted a picture of TJ McConnell with his arm around Andrew Nembhard.
Aaron Nembhard.
Yeah, he did say Aaron Nembhard, and someone said, who's Aaron Nembhard? And I thought I spelled something wrong. So I looked at it, and I was like, oh, that wasn't me. Mark spelled it wrong, whatever. But I thought to myself, that's exactly what won't show up on the box score is TJ McConnell is not getting in, and he is still such a professional with this team that's what you need. And it brought me back to how everybody said James Johnson was so vital. He was barely even playing. So it's just guys, I know everybody always dreams of having that roster spot for someone else. we're only playing 9 guys right now, so I don't really know who else we can trade for at this time without giving up core pieces and expect for that person to also be able to contribute.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in for for the Pacers because they did need to clean up their rotation. They need to get guys that are on the outside looking in somewhere else potentially to get more of a chance to play. I don't know if TJ McConnell is necessarily that guy, but I do think that a guy like Daniel Tice, maybe even Jordan Mora, would benefit from being traded to a team that can give them some more minutes just so they can kind of showcase what they're doing, especially since they're both kind of in contract years. Tice with an expiring, or excuse me, a team option, and Jordan with an expiring. And then McConnell, he's got a player or a team option that's partially guaranteed. So, I love that though that you brought that up, because I did see that and I was like, that's really good of Mark to catch that. And I've noticed that he's always one of the first guys to, congratulate the guys when they come back off the court, when they go to the bench, when they make their first substitutions, or when it's a close game. Like, he's up there just like really rallying the bench and being a good teammate. So like you said, he's being a true pro about it. And Rick Carlisle, when he talked to him and kind of came out and said it after the Wizards game and talked about how he had a hard conversation with TJ McConnell, one that almost brought him to tears. He said, TJ told him, yeah, I understand your decision. I don't agree with it, but, I'm going to be a professional about it. And that is why guys like TJ McConnell stick around in this league, because they're pros. They come to work. They work hard every day. Very, very quality basketball player. Like, I know I brought up Bill Simmons' podcast earlier, but he even talked about like the Spurs. They're a team that could use a floor general like a TJ McConnell, even though they're not going to really win any games, but just have someone out there that can actually run the point. He's sitting out in the rotation with the Pacers. Give him over to San Antonio, do a trade there, figure something out where he can go and kind of help them just kind of get their offense running. I was like, yeah, I mean, McConnell could be really valuable for a lot of teams that don't have such strength at the point guard depth, which was what the Pacers have. So great point to bring up.
I do think if the Pacers are to move McConnell, I think it would be in their best interest to wait until the trade deadline, because his impact on this team, it's still too early. He's going to have a big impact behind the scenes that it's like, let's at least wait and see. You never know what could happen. God forbid anything happens to Halliburton or Nembhard, all of a sudden everything changes. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's something that you don't want to jump the gun and just acquire, a second round draft pick and some filler at this point. That second round pick ain't going to do anything for you this year during the season. So might as well wait. But for right now, I think that, hey, the Pacers are 5-3. Last year they were 3-5 at this time. And when I tweeted out, how does everybody feel about this Pacers team? Everybody had we should be 6-2 or we should be 7-1. And it's like, guys, come on. Can we be happy for a minute here? We should. I get it. But I'm not going to still harp on blowing the Chicago game or the Charlotte game. I'm happy with what I'm seeing because this is progress. We went from a rebuild, which we're still, in the process of, to having the top offense in the league with fantastic ball movement. Like, little by little, guys. I mean, you mentioned right when we hopped on this show, the 4th place Indiana Pacers.
Say it again, Facci.
The 4th place Indiana Pacers. There's only 3 teams in the East right now with 5 wins. Us, Boston, and Philly. How about that?
How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Put that in your pipe and smoke it, all you haters. So that's great. And you know what? Rick Carlisle, 901st win. We're going to talk about that one. Milestone game for him.
Well, hey, 901. It's great. 900 sounds a little bit more significant, but at the same point,
902 sounds pretty good for tomorrow.
902 sounds great. We're chasing 902. Keep chipping away at the history books. Rick, we appreciate you, and let's keep the celebration going.
Well, let's hope that we can get to as many wins tomorrow as Facci has pillows in his bed. We're going for number 6 tomorrow, Facci. Tell the people where they can find us on social media.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod, STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPod, STP. You can find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok at Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to youtube.com/Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast. Subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments section. And you can watch me and Facci's reactions to these little funny comments that we make towards one another. It's a lot more of a fun dynamic seeing it on camera than just hearing it on a podcast. But it's still great whether it's just audio or not. But I will say, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do that and let us know what you think on the YouTube channel. And if you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, leave us a 5-star rating and review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it. And once again, check out my articles, 10 thoughts on every single game, plus Fan of the Week features. Make sure you guys check that out at theblueandgolden.substack.com. But Facci, if you're excited for the Pacers to continue on their winning ways and close out this home stretch here with another victory against the Bucks, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go Pacers.